Man, these bugs are thriving in this hot weather. But don't worry, because I will show you how to smash them all in Unity. But first, let's get to debugging them. I'm Dr.Edsger from tutorials.eu and I will teach you 2 ways of debugging any Unity game or Visual Studio Code in general. Okay, so let's begin.
Hey, and by the way, we also have an article that you can find on our blog that is going over everything that you will see in this video with the code and also the resources. So you can just download them from there. Definitely check them out, and maybe you just want to read through it instead of just watching the video, or just use it as additional material. So check out the link in the description to get to the blog post.
So, what does debugging mean? Debugging is the process of detecting and removing of existing and potential errors, also known as bugs, in a software code. Bugs can cause our software to behave unexpectedly or crash. To prevent incorrect operation of a software or system, debugging is used to find and resolve bugs or defects. Now, one thing that you might hear from your non-technical boss or client is, "I want a bug-free experience." That's kind of impossible. Dr.Edsger Dijkstra, who is best known for his shortest path algorithm, once said, "If debugging is the process of removing software bugs, then programming must be the process of putting them in." But how can we find and fix them in a project with hundreds or thousands lines of codes? Speaking out of my personal experience, most bugs are very easy to fix, but finding them is a whole different story. So, let me tell you about the basic steps of debugging. First, we need to verify that a bug even exists. This can be either by observing it ourselves or follow the steps of how to reproduce it if it was observed by a colleague or a client. Once we are sure that that bug indeed exists, then we need to isolate the source of the bug. Although this step might be a bit hard at first, but as you practice and write more code, sometimes you will be able to immediately tell which is the culprit. Once we know the where, we need to find the why. By identifying the cause of the bug, we should be able to understand why the bug happened, which will lead us to number 4. Determine a fix for the bug. Sometimes you have to think twice before applying a fix when you smash a bug. You might end up creating others by mistake. Yes, they can multiply. Although this can sound as a tedious process, it's actually easier than you think. Remember when you hit play in Unity to test out a new feature that you added and then you saw this error? Null reference exception. Then you had a flashback when you forgot to drag and drop that game object into your script in the editor? Well, congratulations, because now you have already finished the steps from 1 to 4. Because you have seen the bug, you already know which script is the culprit, identified the cause of it, and you have already determined the fix. All in a fraction of a second. And all you need to do is step 5, which is applying the fix. So go now and drag that game object and smash that nasty bug into pieces. Now, a warrior is not a warrior without his sword. So now I will equip you with the tools you will need to fight the biggest bugs out there. So the first debugging tool that I'm going to teach you about is a simple print command, because the most effective debugging tool is still careful thought, coupled with properly placed print statements. This print command is a static method called log, from a class called debug. So let's consider the following scenario where we have a ball with a rigid body and a collider. When the ball enters or exits the ground collider, we want to do something, but it's not working properly. If we think about the source of the error, it could be one of these two. The collision events are not being called to begin with, or the collision events are being called, but the methods we are calling is the culprit. To quickly isolate the bug, we can simply place a debug.log and print enter exit inside the onCollision events along with the timestamp. Now, if we hit play and observe closely, we will see the collision events printing the debug messages correctly in the console window. And looking at the timing of each print, we can verify the timing at which these events happen. Now we know for sure that the collision events are being called and the issue is in the methods we are calling. So, now we need to repeat the same thing in the do something and do something else methods until we find the bug. So debug.log is a very powerful tool which helps us understand Unity better and debug and fix bugs. But a warrior is not a warrior without an armor. Let me show you a more powerful tool that we can use to debug our games, but this time I will show it to you in action.
So I built this complete Unity Masterclass course in which you're going to learn how to build real games and how to build them from scratch. So you're going to learn how to build a platformer game, how to build a Space Invaders clone, how to build a Fruit Ninjas clone and optimize it for mobile and export it for mobile as well, how to build a first-person shooter game, and finally how to build a tycoon game similar to Adventurist, which is an endless game. So if you want to become a real game developer, definitely check out the course. You can find the link in the description and you will get the course with a huge discount, so don't hesitate, as you will not only get the course, but you will also get it in a structured manner with all of the code as well as a Q&A section with a 5-star support. So get the course now. I hope to see you there.
Okay, I have a game called Cookie Quest. It's a game about cookies. The game is simple. You click on the cookie, you get a cookie, and the background color will change randomly because why not? But sadly, sweet things attract bugs. So then, let's run our game and click on the cookie in the middle. And nothing, no errors, no nothing happens. That's not very promising, so let's apply what we have learned step by step for each bug we faced. So, our first step was recognizing that a bug exists, which we already did, since we saw that nothing happened and we also know how to reproduce it by clicking on the button. What was then step 2? Isolate the source of the bug. Since we are clicking on our button might not be working correctly, so let's double check that. Let's select our button under our canvas, right here, so that will be the cookie button. And indeed, there is no function assigned to our button. Okay, that will be step 2. Now, step 3. Identify the cause of the bug. If we look at the button, we can clearly see that the button is linked to a script called UI Manager, but the button itself is not linked to any specific method. If we click on the UI Manager in the on-click part of the button, the link game object with the script in question will blink in yellow. Okay, now let's select the UI Manager game object and open the script attached to it. Inside we can see that this script only contains one method. If we look on the onCookie button click method, we can see that it tries to change the background color of our camera to a random color and then calls the addCookie method from the Score Manager script, which is exactly what we want. A straightforward fix will be simply connecting the button to this method. So let's try that. Click on the button again, go to the onClick function and assign UI Manager onCookie button click. Now that that's done, let's run the game again and see what happens. And oh, null reference exception. As it looks like, there is one error. It tells us that there is a null reference exception. This means basically that we are trying to access a variable or a property that has the value of null. In other words, it's unassigned. Thanks to Visual Studio tools for Unity, we can use Visual Studio to debug our game. Since this issue is more code related, let's debug it using Visual Studio. So double click and it will take you directly to where it should be. One of the perks of debugging using Visual Studio is something called breakpoints. Breakpoints will cause our game to pause and we will be able to view the values of the object in our code at that exact point. Breakpoints will help us to isolate and identify the cause of the bug, so let's add 2 breakpoints, 1 point for each line of our code on the onCookie click method. To create breakpoints, just on the same line you want to create it, go to the very left and on the gray space, click once and you'll get this red circle and your line marked in red. Do the same thing for the other line and now attach to Unity so that Unity actually uses them. And there we go. Now breakpoints will only trigger if the lines assigned to them were executed. So hit play in Unity and click on the button. For that, go back to Unity and what will probably happen is you'll get this message here. What you can do if you know that you're going to be using debugging for every project that you're going to build from now on is enable debugging for all projects. I'm gonna this time just use it for this session, but just so you know that you have both of the options, but you have to actually enable one of them. You can cancel it. So click on the one you prefer. It's gonna be for this session for me. Run your game again and try it again. Click on the cookie and it directly brings us into Visual Studio and shows us where it stopped. If we now hover over main, we'll see that camera main equals to null. That shows us that our main problem is a missing camera. And now take a moment to understand what's going on here. Why is this null? First off, what is this doing here? This piece of code, which is the main culprit why we have a bug and why the game isn't finding a camera, what is camera main even doing? Like, we aren't giving him the main camera game object. So this right here is basically just looking for a camera with the tag main camera. Now let's go back to our scene and click on main camera and see what's going on. Yep, as it looks like we did not tag our main camera with the main camera tag. So let's just do that and try it again. Play your game and let's click on our cookie. Hey, it's perfectly working now, look at the colors changing. But each time I click, there are still errors happening, as you can see here. This time it's telling us that there is a format exception. See, I told you they multiplied. But really what this means is that we just had more bugs left, but that line of code was just never reached because there was a bug before it. If we go back to our code, we can see that it was always stopping here, because here there was a bug. So now that it could finish this line and go to the next line, it managed to find another bug. And as it looks like, this time it's actually calling the score manager script, so probably there's something wrong in there. So open up your score manager. As we can see, the method it was calling was the addCookie one. First off, let's see what is it that it's even doing. It gets the current score as a string from the UI text, converts it to an int, adds 1 to it, and finally assigns it back to the UI text. So let's just add breakpoints to every line that could be the culprit here. Again, attach to Unity, go back to your scene and hit play. Click on your cookie again. If we see what's happening in the first line, we can see that text is actually getting the correct value. This line should be fine. Let's click on continue. And yes, that's it. The issue is that we can't convert text to a number. As a simple fix, what we need to do is set the text to 0 as a text. So basically, instead of getting the value text, the first value it should be getting is 0, the place you want it to start. Okay, great. Now, what will be a possible fix? Go back to your scene, go to score, open text, and instead of text, just type a 0. Now it will be getting this number and it will actually be able to convert it to an int. But the issue is that that's not actually a proper fix in code. So that means that if someone were to use our code or even ourselves and attach it to a different text box and still have text here written, he will be getting the exact same error and will have to every single time debug again and find the fix for it. So to actually find a foolproof way of fixing it, we'll be doing something in script. Best solution would actually be to, before you even go to read it, set its value to the starting point you want, so 0. That way every text you attach it to, it can be whatever you want, but it will always, before being used, set to an actual number. So in the start method, underneath the instance, write score text dot text to set its text value and set it to 0. Okay, save your script, back to our scene, press play, and as you can see, it's directly set to 0. Now if we click on it, color changes, and in console, no errors. As you have seen, we were able to fix all the bugs relatively easily, but we spent most of our time just searching for them. Now, there is a final tool that I haven't talked about yet, and this one is on you. That tool is called patience. Yeah, I know, everyone said that already. Patience, I need patience to debug, but I'm telling you, if you want to properly debug everything, you will need a lot of it. And remember, smashing a bug a day keeps the crashes away. If you feel like you learned something today, then don't hesitate to like, subscribe and doing the bell thingy. I wish you good luck and bye!